I'm Insomniac, and this is the Eberhard Co. Scafomatic. Do you own an Eberhard Co. watch? If so, let me know what model down below and let me know what you think of it. So before we dive into the actual review, here's a single sentence history of this brand for those of you who are unfamiliar with it. And I didn't memorize it, so I'll just read from the notes here. This is a Swiss watch company that started in 1887, and unlike many other brands that have a huge gap in their history that have popped back up recently, this company has been building watches since 1887. If you don't know, now you know. Now you know. Okay, let's get into the watch. The steel case on this watch starts a trend that you're going to see a lot in this review, which is you'd never know how good this watch is without spending time with it. Online and even here in this video, there's really nothing all that special about the case shape or design. But in person, the first thing you notice is the weight and overall feel of the case. It feels like it's milled out of a solid block of high-grade steel, which it might very well be. You have a mix of brushed and polished finishing, which were both done very nicely, and you have this smooth, polished stationary bezel here that brings up the headroom on the dial, which we'll get to later, to allow for a great chapter ring, which we'll also get to later. Case back is attached with 6 screws and has the brand and series and reference number all presented for you. The screw down crown on this watch is perfect for this piece. It's large and easy to manipulate for easy winding and quick time adjustments. The grip is excellent, and you have the Eberhard logo embossed into the face. The whole case, as stated earlier, doesn't look too impressive from where you might be sitting, but the build quality and finishing are excellent here. Very well done. Under the domed anti-reflective sapphire crystal, you have a dial that you'd never know is as good as it is without spending time with it and really taking in the details. Not unlike with the case, a quick glance at the pictures and what you'll notice is that the dial is pretty plain. The 12, 6, and 9 numerals are kinda cheesy, and the handset is a very basic and uninspired shape. And to be completely honest with all of you, that's how I felt about this watch when I first took it out of the box, but there's more to it than that. First of all, you have the uncluttered simplicity of the flat black dial, open and airy with nothing but the brand text and series name printed on it. At the outer edge of the base, you have a clean printed minute track, then a small raised marker for each 5-minute interval, bordered with well-polished steel. Then you have the numerals for 12, 6, and 9. At first I didn't like them. They look childish and kind of cheesy like I mentioned earlier, but the more time you spend looking at this watch throughout the day, those numerals actually take on a kind of funky vintage kind of aesthetic that actually adds a bit of charm to the dial. And keeping with the simple balanced theme of the design here, there's a date window, but it takes the place of where the 3 o'clock numeral would be, and that too is bordered in well-polished steel. You also have a chapter ring with printed numerals to mark all the 5-minute intervals, and a redundant printed line minute track, but I like what they did here. Rather than just have a useless redundant minute track like I've seen on some watches, this track on the chapter ring is red, which makes it unique from the already visible minute track on the main dial, and adds a bit of continuity with the sporty red bordered second hand tip and red series name. Lastly, we have the hands. Now, I don't totally take back what I said earlier about the hand shape. It's basic as can be, but they're perfectly polished and have generous amounts of lume filling in the hour and minute hands, and the minute and second hands stretch all the way out to the edge of the main dial, so they're perfect lengths for this dial. Overall, it's not a special dial aesthetically, but it's definitely well executed. The only usable complication on this watch is the date at 3 o'clock. It's large and easy to read, and always a useful complication. Now, I would have rather seen a white numeral on a black disc because that would blend with the dial better, but I won't subtract anything for that necessarily because having a large white area actually does still balance with the rest of the dial, being that you have the large white lume-filled numerals at the other quarters, so overall, no complaints. I found the lume on this watch to be very effective. What I mean by that is the lume actually isn't very bright, but it charges fairly easy, all glows even, and lasts a good while, so it works for telling the time in the dark and in low light situations. Time at a glance on this watch is superb. You have a large uncluttered dial and all of the hands and markers have great contrast against the black backdrop. Mix that with the very large, sharp pointed handset and it's very easy to find the time on this watch at a quick glance. The bracelet on this watch, not unlike the rest of it, is better than you can see in the pictures. Not only is it finished perfectly to match the case, but you have a subtle raised outer portion on the inner brushed links that adds a little something to the otherwise standard 3-link design. And I love the one-piece look you get at the bottom of the bracelet because of their patented deployment clasp design. Most importantly, and again, this is something you can't see on screen, but the bracelet is perfectly balanced with the weight of the watch body, which makes it a comfortable wear throughout the day. The only thing I don't love about their deployment clasp is how hard it is to take off. You have to pry your fingers under each side and yank on it to the point of damn near ripping the watch off, so that's unpleasant, but otherwise, great bracelet. Last but not least, we have value. As of the time of this video, I found this for sale on one reputable dealer's site for a retail price of around $5,000, but on a big sale for around $1,300. And this is a hard one, because despite the fact that throughout this video I pointed out all the ways you wouldn't know by just looking at it that it's a really solid watch, at the end of the day there really is nothing very special or unique about this watch. The brand, as I mentioned earlier in this video, is an actual Swiss brand with over a century of watchmaking heritage, but it's still relatively unknown comparatively to a lot of other Swiss brands. And it has a solid Swiss movement in it, but it's not an in-house movement or anything even necessarily special. It's a pretty solid movement that's shared with a lot of other watches on the market. The build quality and attention to detail are excellent, but for that money, can you find another watch with similar aesthetics and really good build quality? Yes. Yes, you can. So I don't have a crystal ball, and I could be completely wrong here, but without any real buzz behind the brand name, no in-house movement, and nothing necessarily unique to separate this watch from the endless number of competitive watches out there on the market right now, I don't even see where this watch really has much of an appreciation factor in its future. So unfortunately, despite being reasonably priced for a proper Swiss brand with great build quality, I don't really see where this is a fantastic value at that price. If you enjoyed this review and you want to see another one of my reviews on another Swiss watch that you've probably never heard of but probably should take a look at, click here.